definitely a godsend to have so many people who are, well, one, want to be on the show, but much less who are actually able to at super short notice. And, it was a surprise to Anthony and me that you're going to be coming on. So, it's just, plus for us all over the place.
It just worked out,
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, well, we are streaming. I've got the video recording. I've got the audio recording. We have a chat room with a couple people in there because I wasn't fancy and tweeted out early, or have a cool little music thing that John usually does. Intro. Yeah, because someone didn't send me the background that I was going to be using, but you know what? That's okay. I've got this set up. I can't move my mouse to the right side of the screen, otherwise all the Skype stuff's going to show up.
We'll peek behind the curtain. You'll see how the stream magic happens.
Exactly. And well, the fun thing is now I have a week to try and figure out why the camera is up or overloading Discord too. So yeah, I'm glad it's actually working at the moment.
Yeah.
I think you know what? I'm going to go ahead and blame Discord for both of our camera problems tonight. So
okay.
Because my camera was working fine until I tried to feed it through Discord, and then it just pooped.
That's very true.
I think there's just Discord poopage going on.
Just blame Discord for everything.
I'm happy to leave it at that.
And Black Atreyu, the background is a little old. Someone didn't send me the new one. I'm not going to name any names.
John.
There's only 2 people who work on the show, but I'll let you figure that part out. All right. You guys ready to do an actual show?
Is that what we're doing tonight?
We're doing a show?
Oh, whoops.
Well, okay. To be fair, we're doing a show, as much of a show as we normally do, so not really.
Okay. I'm pretty much ready. What is there anything we need to discuss or
no
air out a little bit before we get going? Any warm up we want to do?
No, I don't think. I mean, do we need to do voice exercises like red
like
leather,
thought experiments, even just warm up the mind, warm up the pipes, anything?
Yeah, a little stretching. Stretching's probably a good idea.
I think we're good. That's true. Yeah.
Back a little.
Yeah. Give a bend and a stretch.
Take a little drink.
Oh, cough. Use my inhaler because I'm a nerd.
Well.
So basically, what you're saying is you fit in just fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how that goes. All right. Well, in that case, let me get this ready, and I'm going to hit record on the audio one more time so I have a fresh starting spot, and we're going to jump right into Welcome to Azeroth Roundtable, episode 296. It is a very interesting and surprising episode and Night's Night, because not only do you have me, Ben Bumhofer, the person who is so far been the only host who has missed an episode, we now have a missing host who is not me. I worded that really poorly, but I don't really care. Anyways, John is actually out sick. This is the first episode he's ever missed, and I know that he's very sad about that, because he'd love to lord it over my head about how much he's actually, I've been on every episode, Ben, that's why I'm better than you, and, things like that. But me being the champion of Azeroth Roundtable, I thought the show must go on. So with me this week, filling in for John actually, is Jason. Hey, Jason, how's it going?
Ben, hello. This is the first time I have spoken to you over the internet, since the last time I spoke to you was in person. Oh, that's a little bit sad, isn't it?
That's actually really sad, and a whole lot of a bummer here.
Sorry to just bum out the whole mood in the first 3 minutes here, but thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure to join you at the round table, and I'm excited to be here this evening. And man, 296. TSZ is going to be doing our 296 on Tuesday.
Oh,
so
man.
we're like 296 buddies
like
this
totally
week.
Neck and neck and everything.
Yeah,
very cool.
We'll probably be doing 300s. We'll have to have a 300 week celebration or something.
And then we'll be yelling, "This is Sparta!" Kicking people into holes,
kick each other into bottomless pits.
Perfect. So here's the thing. Jason was a huge surprise of joining us tonight, but someone who I have been excited to talk to all week. That's grammatically weird, but anyways, I'm going with it anyway. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us back on the show. It is a pleasure to have you.
Feels so good to be here and to be back. And the last time I saw you was at Calm Before the Storm. And Ben, I just got to say, you give the best hugs.
Oh, thanks.
Honestly, like you were able to crack my back. So
while you were
Top
wearing
notch.
armor, which is
While I
actually,
was wearing
I
armor.
think, quite impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? If I was actually a class in D&D, I'd be a grappler and just, crunch backs.
Mm.
Armor be damned.
Or a grappling monk in D&D.
That would work. That'd actually be really cool. Okay, now I have another new character I need to roll. Thanks a lot for that. I appreciate
Hey,
that.
you're welcome.
But yeah, anyways, as I said, it is going to be a fun, fantastic filled episode tonight because I want to talk about something that just popped into my mind, and that is, what the heck am I doing? Like, at all in WoW right now.
Existentially, just in life,
Well,
on this plane of existence.
I mean, the funny thing is that right now it's like the perfect time to play other games because it's actually kind of a lull in content. But I mean, 8.1 is what, a week or two away, something like that?
Call it a week and a half right now. Yeah, it's the 11th in NA, it's the 12th in EU, and with weekly resets elsewhere.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that I'm playing Red Dead Redemption, but need to hurry up and get through that so I can finish. I'm happy I'm playing Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Gotta hurry up and finish that. I've 100%ed everything in Spider-Man so far, so I'm good with that. But I mean, the big question is are you guys finding it hard to kind of do things, or are you actually working on a specific goal?
Well, I've been a busy little beaver the last couple of weeks because of the anniversary event. That 14% XP was pretty juicy, man. So it's over now, unfortunately, and we have Dark Moon Fair starting up, which bridges the gap a little bit until the giant XP nerf. But I've been working on allied races, and I put a fair amount of time into my Void Elf recently. She
Okay.
was level 70 when the event started, and she's currently 103.
Whoa.
So, and with like minimal time investment, really only 2 extended play sessions on her over that 2-week period, just doing the trivia question and doing the monk daily thing for enlightenment. And it was like I was getting a level every other day without even really playing. So working on that, I got a Dark Iron Warrior just running around in Eastern Kingdoms.
Very
And so
cool.
just watching those bars fill up, and that stuff will probably take a back seat, and probably this week I'll step back a little bit because I have my normal routine on my main rating and keystones and world quests, and then I have my off faction alt that I raid with on Friday afternoons, and then also these other characters I've been working on. So I've been staying busy mostly by spreading it around a bunch of different characters. I think if you're going pretty hard on 8.0 content at release, you probably did everything that you wanted to do by now in terms of stuff you could do by yourself. So,
Yeah.
we are definitely in that period of time, but it's that time of year too. All the big release games are out or will pretty much be out this week at this point. So there's all kinds of other stuff to play, and I've been playing some other stuff too. Basically, I just don't sleep. I sleep for 4 or 5 hours a night tops, and the rest of the time I have some kind of video game running or that I'm logged into no matter what I'm doing all day. So maybe that's a problem.
No, I wouldn't exactly say so. Anthony, what about you? What have you been doing? Like catching up on things, or?
Well, Ben, like you said, now is the perfect time to be playing different games. For me, things have been really slow in WoW. I have very sparse time to play WoW because I want to play other games like Heroes, and I want to play Red Dead Redemption, which I completed the story, and Red Dead Online came out. So I'm just split all over the place. And I really only find myself having enough time to play Heroes because you can just get in and yeah, but in WoW, like I've been trying to pop in and out, do some world quest, and trying to work on my rep as much as I can because I really want a Magar Orc.
Yeah.
I really want one of those guys. And they just look so cool. And maybe a Dark Iron Dwarf, but hey, I like to stay with Horde.
Oh man, I gotta say that Makar quest line is absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to spoil it for you because you haven't done it yet, but
Appreciate it.
I gotta say, like, going through and unlocking that race was some of the most fun I've had in Battle for Azeroth, and it's all just because of the storytelling and what's going on with that whole unlocking. I mean, absolutely amazing. Now, I haven't done the Dark Iron Dwarf yet, but Jason, have you actually unlocked both of them, or just the Alliance side of things?
No, I haven't unlocked Magar yet because I didn't finish. I was in the middle of the war campaign when Ian went on stream and said, we're adjusting the rep yields from the War Campaign quest so that you'll be much farther along to Exalted when Tides of Vengeance comes out. And I said, okay, I'm not finishing the War Campaign until Tides of Vengeance comes out. So
Gotcha.
I'm waiting on that. But I mean, I think the Dark Iron unlock quest chain and scenario was really cool as well. It was a little bit more involved than what we saw for the allied races that came out in Legion, right at the tail end of Legion. It wasn't just like, okay, go talk to somebody in the city, play through a scenario, and now you have the race unlocked. It was, you had to keep going back to different places. You'd revisit the hub for the Dark Irons a couple times, and then it culminated in completing a dungeon. So there was kind of a cool storyline that played out, and there was a couple different chunks to it. It wasn't just one scenario, even though I think the Legion scenarios for those races were pretty cool. This one was a little bit more involved. It kind of drew you more into the story of where that race, like the Dark Irons, where they stand at the moment, and sort of why they finally decide, like, okay, we've been sort of helping the Alliance out since Cataclysm, basically. At least some of us have been. And so why is this the time to do it? Or, something like that. It sort of played off of that a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. And I mean, Anthony, have you actually done any of the well, I call them the Legion allied races, even though technically they're supposed to be Battle for Azeroth.
Mhm. I've just done not the Void Elf, Nightborn.
Nightborn.
That's the
okay.
only one I unlocked. Because I just find it so difficult to go back to old content and just farm that. Because I've been playing WoW for so long, like if I get stuck back in old content, then I just zone out in tunnel vision. I get bored and I'm like, if I don't find the right thing to watch on Netflix, then I just can't focus on it. So as I was doing Nightborn stuff, I just managed to unlock it and did that. And I have a Nightborn, but I can't really find myself playing it as often as I should because I really like my Orc Shaman.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of in the same boat. So, I've been playing Monk for the past 2 expansions or whatever, and I love my Pandaren. I will always love her. She is like so like floofy and squishy and just
Yeah.
awesome. Plus, she just totally kicks ass and beats the shit out of it. Beats the stuffing out of anybody. Wait, what am I censoring myself for? This is my own show. Whatever.
It's your show.
Yeah.
I mean, you make the rules. So.
Whatever you want, man.
But I mean, it's one of those things about allied races. So I don't know if you guys know or not, but I used to play a Blood Elf Mage for a very long time. And, before I switched to the Pandaren Monk, that was my main. And I mean, I had the whole, soul searching moment of like, okay, am I actually going to switch? Am I going to, work on this in Warlords of Draenor? That's when I actually switched to being the healer for the raid, or a healer for the raid team. And then the whole story lead up to Battle for Azeroth and stuff happened. And I'm sitting here like looking at my mage, thinking about her. And, I did the whole RP moment of, okay, she's not going to be actually doing Battle for Azeroth. It's like beneath her at this point. She's the head of the mage order hall, all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a brand new mage. Nightborn are freaking awesome. I love the story. And at least to me, the story makes perfect sense for a Nightborn to join the Horde and actually jump right into the fight and everything. So I'm like, this is perfect. So I make her, level her all the way up, get the heritage armor. I'm all happy. Now, Blood Elves are getting heritage armor, so I have to level to 120 with her. That's fine. But it comes down to the point of I've got 2 mages who right now are both sitting at 110, and they're both really cool. Except I have limited time, like right now with work, with other games, with tons of other stuff. So I'm at a quandary. I'm trying to figure out, okay, do I just like say screw the RP in my head and go with my normal mage, or carry on with the Nightborn? And that is the hardest part about allied races, I think, is just with all these new races like kind of thrown to us. How do you choose what to actually play?
I find it like a really difficult decision to have an identity with one character and then switch over to another one, especially with like these allied races. So like if you were a Tauren, and then you got High Mountain Tauren, I'm a Tauren with antlers. Like it's like, do I stick with my old Tauren or do I go to my new one? I really think that these allied races were put in for people who were interested in playing those type of races, but never really got into it. So now they have a reason to play those races, like the Nightborn. They have the same animation models as Night Elves. If you've never played a Night Elf and you've only played Horde, there you go. Now you have a reason to.
I don't think they do the like front over flip when you jump. I think that's like the only difference between them. Like
That is very
they
true.
do this like jump like haha like I don't know like I think like West Side Story like dance jumping pose thing in the air when they're doing it.
The contra
Exactly.
jump that's the most important thing though. It's the contra jump. So without that,
Oh,
it's
but I
just
like
not
that
it's
flip
not as
so
good.
much. But I mean, Anthony, I totally see that, and that kind of actually brings up something else that I was curious about.
Mm.
What are both of your thoughts on like similar allied races where they have different classes available to them? Like for instance,
Hmm.
my Tauren is a paladin and she's awesome, and you know she is always going to carry Ashbringer around even if it's depowered. That's fine.
Sure.
But when I first saw that we were going to have the High Mountain Tauren as an allied race, I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm just going to swap her over to a High Mountain Tauren. She's going to have like little tiny antlers because she's female Tauren. And then they couldn't be paladins.
Yeah. Well, there's certain classes like paladin, shaman, druid come to mind that traditionally have had really restrictive race combos. And I guess it's intentional. They want to have these classes that have really deep lore connections to certain elements of the setting. They want to keep them sort of a little bit more exclusive in terms of your racial choices. Warriors, monks, pretty much most races can be one of those two things because they're sort of skills that anybody can learn, right? In terms of the way the setting works, versus paladins are supposed to be, very devout kind of warriors of the light and everything like that. Shamans have this very deep connection to the elements, and druids are very deeply connected to nature, and they don't really fit the kit for all the different societies in the game. So I think from a gameplay perspective, or just from varying your experiences in the game, having more exclusivity with the combos, it might be annoying when you want to make a cool looking race that's the class that you like to play the best, or you think that a particular combo would be really cool, but it's not available in the game. It encourages people to pick things maybe they otherwise wouldn't, and it creates a lot more variety in terms of what you see when you're running around in the game world, the combos other people are picking. And so I think it influences people to try some stuff they otherwise might not, because if they could just play all 12 classes on their comfort zone race, then maybe they would just do that instead of branching out and trying some different stuff. And
Yeah.
I think it's cool to encourage people to check out some different stuff.
Yeah, especially when it's like a lore reason on why you wouldn't really fit with that. Like, if I remember correctly, way back when Pandaria was announced, like I think like Warlock was actually one of the Pandaren classes, until they're like, oh wait, no, that is totally not right. That's not the way we're doing things here.
Yeah, that doesn't. I don't know if that really works.
Yeah, but it's just like Death Knights aren't available for everybody because they weren't around during the time that Death Knights were there.
Right. Yeah, and that's been kind of a sticking point because people are sort of not happy about that over the years, that they've added so many new races and none of them have had the availability to be Death Knights. And the reason that they've given a lot is that the Lights Hope Chapel battle, that's like the culmination of the DK starting scenario, that was the thing, was that these other races were not part of this conflict before then, although you can make like Worgen and Goblin Death Knights, and they weren't playable at the time. So I'm not really sure where they draw that distinction, but they've sort of dropped hints that they're going to be changing that at some point in the future. It's probably not imminent. Like, I don't think it's going to be in 8.2.
Yeah.
But someday they'll probably loosen some of the restrictions on DKs. So choices are cool. I remember when Cataclysm came out and they added Tauren Paladins and Human Hunters, and it was like, oh, this is awesome. And so it's cool to open it up too, but I think it's probably in practice, it's probably better to start more restrictive and then loosen restrictions over time, because if everybody could just be everything, there wouldn't be the specialness of some of the combos. And then I think Druid is a cool example of that. If every single race could be a Druid, would they be able to do the kind of stuff that we're starting to see with unique animal forms and stuff for the different races? Probably not, because it would be too hard to read potentially. And in certain cases, how would you differentiate it in a meaningful way and make it really look cool and have identity? they might be tougher questions to answer. So keeping it more restrictive, it adds space to make stuff unique and cool, and I think there's something to that.
Yeah. Now,
The
Anthony.
restrictiveness.
Oh,
Oh,
oh no,
yes.
no, go right ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think the restrictiveness is really important, especially from a business standpoint, simply for the fact that if you have something that's exclusive, then it makes you like want to play and it makes you feel special and kind of keep subscriptions. Kind of like the Cool Tier and Druids. Like I thought that was like really, really cool. Like I love like horror stuff, and seeing like their druid forms and everything is so cool. And if they moved, like let's say if I make one and they move like all those forms to, like different races, then it's just gonna be like why'd I do that? I could have just waited. So I think it's very smart to keep it restrictive and then just, as Jason said, loosen it up as time progresses. Also, I have a
Exactly.
cat with me. This is Gen, named after Gen Greymane.
Aw.
You
Again,
like
is
to say
very
my
adorable. Okay, so this kind of brings me to where I was going anyway. So seeing how adorable that cat is makes me think, gnome druid forms would be pretty cool. But
Yeah, but that's part of kind of what I'm saying. It's like their culture makes no sense. They're not like nature worshippers, right? So,
but what if they were cyborg druids and they turned into robot versions?
You know,
Yeah.
I was thinking that as soon as you said it, like a mecha jaguar or something.
and we're getting the Junker gnomes at some point during BFA, so
Yeah, so all of them just
it
like
sort of it sort of fits. Yeah,
like
I've never wanted to play a
transform
gnome
into it.
before.
Oh yeah, I know. Same here, right? But overall, if there was one race class combination that's not available in WoW right now, what do you think it would be that you'd want most? And I've got someone screaming from the bedroom right now, which is, I was going to actually bring it up. One of the things that Nevermore really wants more than anything else, and it's just based on one concept alone, and she wants an undead shaman, and that's so that the totems can be tombstones.
Yes.
yeah. I mean, that would be a cool gag for sure.
Okay, I was trying to like rattle my brain, like what would be it? That would be it. 'Cause right now I'm playing shaman. Like I really enjoy shaman. I know they're not the best, whatever, but like I just like the whole idea of like summoning totems and buffing your allies and healing rain and all that stuff. But if I were an undead shaman, oh man, like I would never stop playing WoW.
I don't have a good answer for this question. I mean, I'm a 14-year warrior main, and everything can be a warrior. So I'm never faced with these issues. If I want to make a warrior of a particular race, then I just click the button. So I don't think there's any glaring omissions from the current roster or the upcoming roster. I think adding in the Zandalari Paladins and the Kultiran Druids kind of rounds out a couple really cool aesthetic combos, especially having like a much more traditionally human-looking shapeshifter druid is really cool.
Yeah.
So, on as far as my wish list goes, I mean, last week we just passed the 14th anniversary, which is also my main character's 14th birthday. I've been playing a Night Elf Warrior since 2004, and I don't think they would ever really put anything in the game that would make me want to play it more than that. I've just been a giant Night Elf fanboy since Warcraft 3. So, that combo, it just speaks to me, and I've always enjoyed it. And I've just dug the whole aesthetic of that from day one. So I'm a bit of an edge case, though. So, I think that's why I don't have a better answer for that particular wish list question.
Well,
That was my first character. It was a Night Elf Warrior, so
Oh,
I feel
really?
you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
usually it's Night Elf Hunter, so I'm glad that you broke that mold, both of you.
I have a funny story about that because when I first started WoW, I was like in junior high, and when I went to GameStop to pick up, what was it, BC, the expansion, the guy straight up asked me, he's like, "Do you play Hunter?" I was like, "No, I play Warrior." He's like, "You play Night Elf?" I'm like, "Yeah," like not knowing the stereotype, like younger people play Night Elf Hunter. And I told him I like playing PvP and the Shadow Meld thing. He's like talking to me about PvP. I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I was telling him a trick, like Shadow Meld, so they dislike you and then you charge at them. And he just didn't understand. Like he thought I was talking about Rogue, and he's grabbing the
Oh,
expansion,
no.
and he's like, and he says from like he's like noob. I'm like, oh, I got called a noob at GameStop. Well, actually, no, it was
Man,
CB
you should have
Games.
just walked out and bought the game somewhere else.
I I was
What kind of
young.
what
I
kind of
had a
customer
ride.
service is that, man?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really powerful in vanilla in BGs or something.
Hmm.
Just shadow meld all the night elves on the capture point and
Oh yeah. In
uh,
fact, in Nevermore, she used to actually run a twink. I think either 19 or 29 or something, some low level um, night elf hunter. And I'd just be watching her play and everything, and she'd just walk over to the capture point. I'm like, if you stand there, they're just gonna. I'm like, oh, because I've played Horde, well, always. So, I never knew that was even a thing until all of a sudden she just started doing that. And I'm like, that is amazing. No wonder you're a night elf. That
shadow
works.
meld is the best racial in the game, like straight up. Like there's others that are more flashy or that maybe you get more benefit out of in combat situations or whatever,
Hmm.
but being able to just stealth on a class that doesn't have available stealth even while you're in combat is incredible,
Oh, yeah.
especially with as much times as you get stuck with something that's broken and you get stuck in combat and you got to run 80 yards to get it to drop. I never have to do that on any of my night elf characters because you just go meld and leave, and it's beautiful. It's such a nice quality of life. Like over the years, it's just meld is the racial that I use the most for sure.
Yeah, actually, leveling as an alchemist, this expansion, I used something kind of similar to that. I forget what the potion's called, but I just randomly had some with me, and it was in, was it Zandalar? I don't know. It was a place with there's a whole ton of Naga around, and the giant brutes and everything as well. And I'm just over there. I'm like, oh god, I got to get all the way over there. I am just dead tired of fighting right now. So I'm like, chug the potion, ran a little bit, stopped, stealth. Something walked past. I'm all run a little bit, stop, stealth. And it was like the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, I can't really play a rogue all that often, but doing this, that's great. I'll just chug a potion every now and then and see what happens.
Yeah, stealth is a good button. It turns out. Like who knew?
Yeah. Well, all those pesky rogues.
Got one in mind.
Yeah. So okay. Warrior is pretty much, you said, it's in your blood. It's what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you said night elves as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the RTS days, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So, Anthony, I have to ask. I know
Ask away.
you've been playing for a while. I know you said you're playing a shaman right now,
Yes.
but what calls to you? What is in your blood? What would you have that is the most representative of you that you've played or that you are playing, like racial as well as class? Just out of curiosity.
Just that's see that was a tough question, but just the race that I love the most in World of Warcraft, hands down, is Worgen. Like I love the whole idea of like them trying to control their rage and their emotions and being able to manifest that into something and become like this being and just get dark and using their claws and stuff. I really loved Gan Greymane as a character. I still like him, of course, name my cat after him. And that's why like I got into the whole idea of like, Sylvanas and liking the undead. Undead would definitely be my secondary choice, but I love Worgen. I love that whole thing, that whole aesthetic. I mained a Worgen rogue in Cataclysm. And that was like one of the most fun times I had in WoW. But yeah, it would hands down be Worgen, which why I'm excited they're getting new models.
I think that is probably one of the best things that can happen to the Worgen, and especially the female Worgen.
I have a female Worgen.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it.
I'm just so the pictures that they showed at BlizzCon where it's like, hey, the permanent snarl is just gone now. I'm so happy for them. Because
Yeah, I mean, we only saw a couple shots of him. We haven't really seen him in action yet or anything either, but looks like they're moving in the right direction. And I mean, that was a thing that Chris Robinson, the art director, he talked about at BlizzCon last year in 17. That's when he kind of mentioned that, hey, we are working on this. It's not going to be ready to go, anytime soon, but it is on the horizon. It is happening. And then we didn't hear anything about it up until this year's BlizzCon. So they did say like it's still happening, but we're not going to talk about it until we have something to show you because it's art and therefore it's weird to talk about it. So we'd rather just show you when it's ready. So yeah, it's kind of funny because the female Worgen has always been a sticking point for some people. I think a lot of people are kind of unhappy with the way that it ultimately turned out, but you look at the Worgen and the Goblin models, and to me, like in terms of their fidelity, they don't look that bad. But then you think
Yeah.
about it, and they are 8 years old now, and so it was probably time to bring them up, And hopefully, we'll see this continue to happen. Every couple years, a couple player character races get brought up, and they just keep moving the bar slowly forward every few years. Because, man, I don't know if you guys played the classic demo at all, but it didn't take me long to forget how bad those old character models looked. I mean, in 2004 they were okay, but whew, that was a rough little trip down memory lane with the oven mitts.
Oh man. You ever go back in the settings and go put on the old models just to see the difference?
No,
Oh,
I never
man.
I never did that one time.
Yeah, new models all day, every day for me.
Yeah, the best thing is being a Pandaren and standing next to those old models. You just point and laugh. It's like,
Yeah, look how many bones I have.
yeah. Watch this. When I jump, my hair goes woo. Flies up and everything.
I
Yeah,
love the jiggle physics on the male Pandaren.
It's funny because of that. I could not have a male Pandaren warrior because I'm like, they're supposed to be wearing plate mail, plate armor. Plate armor
Yeah.
does not jiggle like that. So I turned him into, or deleted him, then created a female one. It worked a lot better, and well, she's just awesome now. But yeah, oh man,
it's kind of hard to stuff that into a suit of plate armor for sure.
exactly.
I live that every day, so I completely agree.
Very true. Oh man. Okay, so we've got the heritage armor coming for the dwarves and then also the blood elves.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I'm excited for both of them because as far as alliance races go anyway, I'm a huge fan of the dwarves. I think they're pretty awesome.
I mean, how could you not be, really?
Oh, exactly.
They're a fantasy setting staple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every fantasy setting has to have cool dwarves.
Exactly.
And I think Warcraft's dwarves are among the coolest. They have like their whole clan structure, and each of the clans has a really different personality and culture,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really cool characters. A lot of times, dwarves are just straight up comic relief in a lot of fantasy settings, and they certainly use them for that in Warcraft. But I feel like there's a lot more nuance than maybe like Tolkien dwarves or something like that. So
Exactly.
yeah,
It's like,
they're cool.
they're there. They can be funny and everything, but at the same time, they're the last ones up always.
Yeah.
Just kind of how they go. But so given the fact that we're getting those sets of heritage armor, what is the next one like aesthetically that you think is going to be the most kind of out there, or maybe just like see it and then be like, oh, okay. Because I mean, we've gotten a lot of and I'm not talking about the Zandalari trolls, but like troll armor from all the different raids and stuff that we had before. So like I'm not as excited about seeing that stuff just because we've kind of seen some of that. We've seen a lot of like, I would say, night elf armor and things like that. They're very stylized and everything. So overall, what's the next one that's going to come up, and is it going to be as eye-catching as the others?
Well, so we know the next two that are coming in.
Oh, we do?
After Dwarf and Blood Elf, we're getting Tauren and Gnome.
Oh.
They will be at some probably 8.2 or something, the Rise of Ashara patch. They showed a quick concept of each of them at BlizzCon, but no finished models or anything. So we know that those two will be the next after the two that we're getting in Tides. And obviously the door is open to all of the existing races getting them. So let's take Tauren and Gnome off the table because we already know what's up with them.
Okay.
The Tauren set looks amazing, by the way. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. The Gnome set, I mean, Gnomes are really not my style. I think the Gnome set is also kind of underwhelming because you figure they could go super wacky with Gnome, and I don't think it was quite wacky enough.
Well,
but
I would picture
I'll leave that to the Gnome enthusiast to decide.
I would picture every Gnome set to have, okay, so like the weird goggles that they have, but like the entire body. Like springs sticking
body
out or
goggles.
something. I mean, just like moving parts all the time. Like that's just how I would picture what a gnome would build for their own armor.
Sounds like a little steampunky.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
picture like a not spacecraft, like aerocraft, steampunk for gnomes.
Oh,
I can picture
totally.
that at least. Yeah.
Yeah, like a little they have a little tiny chimney off of their right shoulder or something, just coming up or something along those lines. I mean,
Steam.
yeah. I mean, how cool would that be?
That would be really, really neat. I'd like to see that. I wouldn't play it, but I'd like to see it.
I'd like to run around and see that running by me.
Yeah, if you guys check I just posted links to the 2 sets I showed at BlizzCon, and there are definitely there's a heavy goggle theme on the gnome set, but it's just on their head. You don't get goggles all over your body.
Gotcha.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the cogwheels and stuff on the shoulder, the symbol on the cape. It's very cool. It almost looks leathery. Like lots of leather.
Yeah, it's all put together with there's pouches and little doodads everywhere, and leather straps on everything. So, not bad. I think it's actually a little bit reserved for I know some people who are diehard gnome fans. I mean, nobody's in the middle of the road about gnomes, right? You're either gnome for life or you don't play gnomes. There's not there's just not a lot of middle ground there.
Well,
It's all or nothing.
And the funny thing is I personally, I don't have anything against them. I'm just not a fan. And it's one of those things where I guess, I don't know, maybe because of previous games that I've played, I'm totally cool with them because back when I played Final Fantasy 11, I was a Taru. So, the little diminutive, it looks like the mix between a chipmunk and an Ewok or something, that's essentially what they were. And so, I was totally used to being the little race and running around, and I was perfectly fine with that and stuff. And I mean, I don't mind gnomes, but for some reason it's I like them more than goblins, which is weird because, as a total horde lover and everything like that, I've never really felt super attached to the goblins. But I think that's one of the reasons why I'm all for Volpera being a horde race, so that I can, have another diminutive race that I'm just totally all in for.
That'd be really cool. And I do have to say though, every person that I know who plays a gnome, nicest people, funniest, super cool. I love them.
Oh yeah,
Gnome players rock.
Yeah, nothing against gnomes.
Nothing against gnomes.
No.
Well, you can't publicly be against gnomes or gnome mains because they'll come find you and it won't be pretty. So.
Oh no, I like my shins.
But anyway, back to your question, Ben. We kind of took a side street there because we had some other heritage armors to talk about, and I mean, the Tarn one is insane. By the way, the giant carved totem that is your cloak, I guess. And the shoulders that are 2 carved animal skulls that are asymmetrical. I mean, what a cool look. But, I mean, I think Goblin would be the race that I would expect they would go the wackiest with in terms of the heritage armor. The Night Elf and stuff, obviously, we're getting a ton of Night Elf-themed cosmetics in the new Warfront that's coming in Tides of Vengeance. Also, a lot of new Forsaken. They're not heritage armors that are coming for Night Elf and Forsaken, but all the stuff out there is themed in the way that the current Warfront is themed around humans and orcs. So, that kind of feeds that need for those types of aesthetics in the immediate term. And, you think about some of the other races and, I mean, what's human heritage armor going to look like? How cool is that going to be compared to some of the wackier races?
Yeah. And it's funny because I kind of brought that up with John either last week or the week before. What's undead heritage armor? Funeral clothes?
I was just thinking about that. I was thinking maybe something tailored to Lordaeron, like a broken down type of plate armor. Rusted.
Oh, it would be amazing.
Just cobbled together.
If they had the half porcelain mask that is Sylvanas' symbol and stuff.
The crest of the Forsaken.
Oh my gosh, I need that now in my Forsaken armor.
Or at least incorporated somehow into it. Yeah.
Yeah, those death guards in what is it, Zuldazar, the pyramid?
Oh yeah,
those guys were standing there. I can just picture that, but the mask and that purpley looking stuff.
That would actually be really cool. I'd be all for that.
And their aesthetic is super well defined too. I think that the Forsaken have had one of the stronger aesthetics in the game. Yeah, you remember the first time you played it and you went and checked out the undead starting area and all that, and it was just nothing else in the game really looks like this. So
yeah,
I certainly think that'll be cool, but I think the place they have the most room to just do something off the wall is with goblins, because they're kind of misfits inside of WoW in general. I mean, kind of like you were saying, Ben, I think the part why you haven't really connected with them is because the prominent ones are always so sleazy.
Yeah.
There's very few really heroic characters that are goblins. They exist, but there's not a lot of them. and there's sort of these, they have these little outposts, but they don't really have any kind of clearly defined culture outside of their, the money and the tech. That's the thing that binds them all together, but they're all scattered all over the world and they all kind of do their own thing. So I think there could be a lot of room to do cool stuff with them. Whereas I think some of the other races, like you could probably picture in your head what, you know, Coulter I'm sorry, what Worgen Heritage Armor will look like. The Gilneans, they have like a very defined look that's very uniform wherever you go in the world.
Just
and
top hats for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, those, a lot of those races are super clearly defined in a way that, not that goblins aren't, but I feel like they have the most room to play in that space.
For goblin armor and pie in the sky, this is what I'm wishing. There needs to be tiny explosions constantly going off on the armor, or like little tiny fireworks just shooting off the sides,
like
or
something malfunctioning on the armor all the time. Like that would be perfect.
Oh, that'd be great.
Like just little fire,
like little sparks shooting off every now and then.
That'd be super cool. I like that idea. Yeah. I'm trying to think which race I can think of that would stand out, like if they had their heritage armor, because like you said, Ben, we've had the troll, and it's hard to imagine like which would stand out the most. And I think Jason was correct with goblin, like they would stand out the most once they get their heritage armor. I'm trying to think, like human already has theirs, if I'm not mistaken. Like they have like. Do they have theirs, or
not exactly?
But the thing is, like, if you have the current sets that are out for Warfront, for Alliance, are super Stormwind themed.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're not the same thing as Heritage Armor. They're not cosmetic pieces. They're assigned different armor classes. So they also have different looks per armor class. But the theming is so incredibly strong, going back to the early days of the franchise. It just looks like what humans in Warcraft look like.
Yeah, and I mean, if you really want, you can get the Orgrimmar grunt armor from like the what's that thing called? Garrison. Thank you.
There was the building in the Garrison where you get the cosmetics.
Yeah, just throw that on there. Boom, you're a classic orc with heritage armor at that point.
Maybe the Pandoran, once they get their heritage armor.
That could be cool.
Like, because I'm thinking like a strong Chinese theme, like with their whole look and stuff like that. I think that would be different than what we have going on right now with like this whole medieval fantasy humans versus orcs thing going on, and trolls and all that. So I think maybe that just popped in my head. They would stand out the most.
I can see that.
Yeah, and I mean there was such cool aesthetics inside of Mists of Pandaria, and you think of like the Shadow Pan, and the way that whole faction looked, and that stuff doesn't really, that theming is very strong, but it really doesn't fit with most of the rest of WoW. So they don't really revisit it all that much. And in this expansion, we don't have tier sets that are, visually themed around classes like we always had. So you had the monk set, and that obviously would typically look good on Pandaren because that's the race combo that a lot of people play. So now, at least for the next year and a half, we're not going to have any of that class-specific theming on armor art. So stuff that looks good on a monk may not. I mean, the Old Deer stuff and the Warfront stuff.
It doesn't
look like monk gear at all.
No.
Like that is not in my head. Like that is not what my monk would wear. Now we have years of cool sets that you can throw on your monk, and we got a bunch of really good ones just in Legion. So. You probably have a look that's acceptable for your monk at this point.
I mean, right now I'm transmogging the Horde Warfront armor set. It's not that bad. I mean, it's still
it's
more spiky than you think.
Pretty good too.
Yeah. Well,
it just doesn't scream monk in a way that the tier sets
exactly.
do.
And well, the funny thing is that my level 110 Alliance monk is wearing the full Warfront set because I have it on the Horde side. So nice. I've got it on the Alliance side too. So I'm like, hey, it's matching. Cool. But something I would like to see actually for the Pandaren heritage armor would be, more of like a New Year's celebration look, very colorful, maybe, the Four Celestial themed in some form or something like that. It really would like kind of pull a lot of that culture together in a celebratory way. And I mean, if you think about it, that's kind of what a Pandaren look would kind of go for is, more celebrating life and, togetherness and everything like that, than, something like, okay, I'm getting ready for war or defense or something like that. Or heck, maybe it's just, a bib and a, comically sized fork and beer mug or something, that too.
That would be
Either
good
way.
too, yeah.
Yeah, it can totally
maybe
work.
we need all of these. We just need multiple Panda heritage sets at some point. Just keep rolling them out.
Yeah, I'd be all for it. Or chi torpedo them out.
Oh yeah, I would prefer that, because you get the movement speed buff for like 12 seconds afterwards or whatever.
This is the first expansion.
Torpedo them out. Don't roll them out.
This is the first expansion I've actually used Chi Torpedo. I feel like an idiot at this point because
It's so
I didn't
good.
realize how much better it was, because I always did the celerity with the 3 rolls. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And now I've got 2 Chi Torpedoes and I'm like, run super fast, wait till that buff is almost gone, then hit it again and you go super duper fast and do your whole ninja run. And I love it.
Yeah, celerity is good for those fights where you need to stand still most of the time, but then move really quick 3 times. There's not actually a lot of those, so
Yeah, Chi Torpedo, way better.
Yeah, torpedo is really, really good, guys. Good button. You heard it here.
Yes. Just like Shimmer for a mage is fantastic because you get to blink twice in the middle of spell casting. If you want, do a pyroblast and you want to just blink out of the way of something, you still got your pyroblast casting. It is amazing. Sorry, I get really excited
it's
about
not
stuff
fair.
like that.
Well, see, that's that's the cool thing. I think that's the thing about WoW that is really great over the years is the gameplay just feels good and movement abilities feel really good, and every class usually, or almost every class, has something they can do that when it all aligns perfectly on an encounter or something, you're like, this feels like cheating. I feel like I'm cheating because I can do this. And I think everybody, whatever class they play, has those moments once in a while, and that's what makes combat really fun.
I wonder if demon hunters get that feeling all the time.
They get it on probably many more fights than some of us do. I mean, warriors have a lot of options too, so we're not too jealous of demon hunters. Death Knights, on the other hand, are like, wait for me, guys.
Well, I mean, they do have that Wraith walk where there's kind of like,
And they get
And that's-
stuck on a pebble.
If you want to trigger your Death Knight friends, whenever they're complaining about their lack of mobility, just say, hey, you have Wraith walk. Just wait and see what they say about
it's something. It's something. I've seen it used. Oh man, okay. So, have you ever gone up against a boss and it feels like the boss is cheating? Like I know everybody has at one point, but
yeah.
But the big thing that I'm talking about is, and it's something that has to be in the game, otherwise, raid encounters wouldn't be what they are, and that's the boss rage. Like, it's like, okay, you got 12 minutes before he's just really pissed. And I just
like the Berserk or like the Hard Enrage. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, I get why it's in there and everything, but it's always like, because my team, it's a friends and family team. It takes us a while to get fights sometimes, and sometimes it's like we're doing great. We finally have the dance down and everything like this. We're like, woo, this is awesome. And then all of a sudden he enrages, and all of a sudden the tank just bleh, and everyone's like, what's going on? It's like, oh, he's enraging. We would have had it in like another 45 seconds, but. Whatever. He's just mad enough at this point.
Yeah. That's always unfortunate. We were actually raiding Heroic Old Deer today with the Friday afternoon group, and we ran smack into a Hard Enrage on Fed Devour or Berserk, and it's like, well,
ouch.
That's what happens. So you just gotta either clean it up a little bit or switch some stuff around. I think those things like Hard Enrages or Berserks, they're basically there to introduce like a speed bump or some kind of a check. Like you need this degree of throughput in order to progress farther through this raid instance. And so that's okay. Like it always feels bad when you die to a Berserk and it's like a close call, but that means that you did the fight well enough to survive the whole time, probably, if your team's alive and you all die because of the Berserk. If you had 3 people alive and you made the rest of your team watch for 4 minutes, then maybe not so much. But
that's called a challenge.
Yeah, well, plus it's practice, right? If you're learning the dance, it's more practice time for whoever's still alive. But like you should feel good if everybody survives, but you die to a berserk, because it means you did the fight right for a really long time, and now you just have a throughput bar to clear. But man, when you were asking this question, Ben, I immediately thought of the council boss in Antorus that we just spent most of 2018 fighting, because every week I dreaded re-clearing that boss, because it's you're fighting three bosses. One of them jumps out, so two of them are active at all times, and their abilities and the way that they interact with the raid is very predictable, but they have a series of other things they do that are not predictable. Like they summon in the aid of one of the titans that they're torturing, and that happens in a random order. And then there are also these other elements that affect the room. They create area denial, and these overlap with abilities that the Titans have in really bad ways sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So like that's an example of bosses cheating that I really don't like. Berserk I'm okay with, because if you can live long enough for it to berserk, you'll kill it someday. But but sometimes the overlaps are they're horrendous, and it's like, could this just not be random chance? Could this, like, the delta between this rotation's easy and this rotation is difficult is way too wide for the same encounter. So not that I understand that we need randomness in encounter design to some extent, and that we need to have challenges to overcome, and we need problems to solve as we're playing, and that's fine. But that fight in particular, it was so much more punishing than I think anything else in that raid. Once you had that fight perfected, it was like, well, the last two are easy compared to this. And the last fight was Argus the Unmaker. You're fighting a Titan, and it's like, okay, well, this isn't that bad, because we killed the Coven. If we
used all of them, yeah,
the Titans, no problem. Like that, it was just, that was kind of weird. So that's one that I think for me personally, that fight will always be kind of infamous. And it's not like we wiped on it 200 times, or like even though the entire rest of the dungeon was on farm, we would die on that all the time. It wasn't even like that. We didn't wipe on it that much, but every week it was just, okay, it's time for Coven. Everybody remember to stand in the thing. And, and then you just kind of hold your breath for anywhere between like 7 and 11 minutes.
Yep.
And, hopefully you kill it, and you probably don't get your shoulders or your trinket.
Yeah. Anthony, did you do any raiding in Argus?
I did not. Raiding is not something that I do very often, so I can't really give you like a definite answer on this question. But I can definitely tell you that the only time I felt like the game was cheating me was like when I'm doing World Quest and something just knocks me off my mount, and it's just like floating in the earth, and it's like I can't hit it, or when I go to shoot something and it's just evading.
Oh yeah.
Like just constantly. So, or when where something doesn't load properly and I just fall off a cliff. Very rare.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the only time where I feel like the game is cheating, but yeah, that's the answer I got.
Well, see, that's why you play tank spec, and you have Shadow Meld and Heroic Leap, and then nothing ever dazes you and knocks you off your mount. If you get stuck with something that's evading, you just Shadow Meld and run away. And if you fall off a cliff, you just Heroic Leap to the ground.
I was going to say, so Jason, that means that you've never had the issue where you're running around, you fight a whole bunch of stuff, you kill a whole bunch of stuff, and for some reason you're still in combat for 15 more minutes, and you have no idea why. Nothing's actually attacking you. You've run like 3 continents away, and I can't mount yet. Sorry, guys. Oh.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, on my main, typically no, because normally Shadow Meld will solve that problem. And I have like 3 Night Elves that I play between my Warrior and Druid and Demon Hunter, obviously. So typically, like, that's not that big of a deal. But I remember I was leveling up my my Lightforged Paladin earlier this year, and I don't know what happened. I made something angry somewhere. Maybe it was a critter that like caught a debuff or something. Like that's usually what happens, is there's like a debuffed critter somewhere that's mad at you. But like, it's not like paladins are throwing a lot of debuffs out, so I have no idea. But I was completely stuck in combat with something somewhere, and Lightforged do not have Shadow Meld apparently. So I ran like a third of the way across the zone, and I don't, to this day, we'll never know what it was that was angry with him or why it changed his mind. But and every time something like that happens, I'm just like, How do people play without Shadow Meld?
Try playing as a fire mage. When that fire just starts spreading to critters and everything else just all around.
Sorry, guys, I can't help it.
Yeah, the worst part is when a mob runs away and then living bomb goes off and pulls like 2 or 3 other things. You're like, no, you were yellow. I wasn't trying to attack you.
You guys are fine. Everything's fine here.
Yep, and then meanwhile a rat's just biting at your foot for like 1 damage every now and then. It's like, oh, come on.
What critter is actually hitting you? They all just miss me.
Well, I get down to their level and say hi every now and then, so.
Yeah.
You're pacifist, you pet them.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, Demo Shout or any kind of big AoE debuff like that. It's like you're going to catch something sometimes. But have you guys done much Mythic Plus so far this expansion?
I have not. I'm just a big weenie when it comes to that stuff. My enjoyment from the game just comes from like playing single player,
just zoning out. That's cool. I mean, I love that side of the game as well. But the reason why I bring it up is because there's an affix this season that's Gahoon themed, right? So there will be throughout the dungeon, some mobs will have this buff called Infested. Infested makes them heal things around them for, I don't know, a percentage of their health every 3 seconds or 5 seconds or something. So you have to either pull everything away from them or isolate them or whatever, or kill them first. And when they die, from their corpse bursts these 2 worms that are little Gahoon spawns that will then go try to infest something else. Now, have you guys done the Freehold dungeon at all?
Yes.
Yes.
You know the long bridge that goes to Harlan Suites area, the last part of the dungeon?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
There is a critter at the end of that bridge that is infested sometimes.
Sometimes.
And it's right in the middle. It's right behind a 2-pull, and then there's like a 4-pull on the other side, and there's a 3-pull pat that moves around with it.
Oh, geez.
So
right.
you have to kill the things in front of it, and then taunt the critter over to you so you can kill it on the bridge. Because if you hit it with anything, it's just going to die, and the infested spawns are going to pop out and then infest other mobs. And when mobs get infested, they also auto aggro. So, you have to be real careful with that pull. There's a couple little things like that they sprinkled into these dungeons where there'll be like infested critters or something like that. And it's so dastardly that I have no choice but to appreciate it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Like, I
challenge.
love little like surprises like that. And, maybe it was a bug in testing and they thought, hey, this is cool, and just left it in. Or something. But I mean,
it could be.
When you look at World of Warcraft as a living, breathing world, it only makes sense that like an infested thing would happen to a critter or something. I mean, hell, that's how the bubonic plague was spread. Just these rats are fine. Yeah, exactly. That's why you need to pet battle, so you can kill all the ones that are carrying infections. That's why I do it. That's why I do it.
But then your pets
become a public
infected.
service.
Oh, no, they don't get infected. I take care of them.
That's what the button in the UI is for.
Yeah, exactly. You heal them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they get their shots. It's fine.
Sorry, I'm giggles. All giggles today.
You're fine. But I gotta say, it's one of the great things when tiny little attention to details are like put in throughout the game. Like we brought it up on the show before, how in Broken Shore Dalaran, sorry, there's so many broken things these days, I don't know, but
yeah,
exactly. But
we'll stick with the names of things, not the stuff inside the game that's broken.
But the Broken Shore Dalaran, where like the NPCs will walk around you because they're pathing and trying to make it real. It's something that's cool. It's something that my entire raid team thought I was smoking crack for, was when I said, have you guys really looked at the walls in Dalaran? Because they're like sparkly and shiny and stuff.
That's right.
And it's a little tiny magical thing that's added. And, it's something that I love about the art direction, how they're able to just like totally make something feel completely lived in, just with, the art style, much less all the different items and stuff that they just throw in buildings and everything. So
Yeah.
having mechanics actually affect other things that aren't just, go from point A to point B is something that I think is kind of refreshing, even if it was an accident or if it was intended. Either way, again, it just makes the world
Yeah.
feel so much more alive and lived
Makes it
in.
feel, yeah, lived in for sure. And we actually got a big upgrade on that front in BFA too, which is weird because it's so subtle that when they first talked about it, I was like, I never even thought about that. But characters lean on stuff now, and you'll be in Freehold or something, and there's some pirates just leaning against the side of a building or whatever, and it's so subtle that you don't even think about it. But when you experience it, it's like, yeah, this feels authentic. These little animation touches. One of my favorite things, just on that note, my favorite little touches in the game that they put in BFA, in the Alliance Bank in Borealis, one of the bankers is like hunched over his counter, and he's got his elbows on the counter, and like his chin is resting on his palm, and he just looks
Yeah.
exhausted and furious. And it's so great. Like it's so great to just have that personality expressed through a character's pose or animation, because it really does make the world come alive. So,
Okay.
we've had 14 years of the bankers stand there, and this
Very,
guy's he's ready to go home.
very, very serious question. Does he look exhausted, or is he daydreaming about someone who's incredibly dreamy?
I mean, why not both? Maybe it's been a long day at the bank, and he's thinking of somebody dreamy. He looks angry to me. Like he looks like he's sick of dealing with Borealis bank customers. But it's such a cool little touch, and it's like, who would even think of that? It's like the banker NPCs have been basically the same completely unnotable thing for this entire game's history, and they're still finding different ways to inject personality into it. I really appreciate that.
I saw a Reddit post the other day where there was like a bird that flew down and grabbed something out of the ocean and flew away, which it also sparked like a bunch of other meme threads. But I thought that was super cool. The bird just came down, and I don't know if it grabbed a salmon or something like that.
Huh.
And then reiterating more on the lean, going back to the Forsaken Death Guards that are just standing there like that, like the different animations that they're adding
Mhm.
is super cool. And it also makes me beg the question, like, will they ever update the player characters emotes, like slash spit? Will there be like a spit wad that comes out, or slap or hug? Like, I wonder if they can ever update that. And I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah,
for role
all that
players.
stuff it's in the game, right? Or at least they might have to tailor it on different skeleton rigs and stuff to make it make sense. But we haven't really had too much new stuff in that regard in years. I can't remember the last time we got new emote animations. And there's so many new animations. We got the giant melee combat animation update in 7.0. And then over the life of Legion, we got a ton of spellcasting updates, and we're still getting casting animation updates and new spell VFX. So hopefully someday, some of that stuff has just been the same forever. So it'd be cool to either expand on it or add some different variety, or maybe inject some more racial personality into it, depending on what character you're playing.
Mm-hmm. All I want is my /meditate to actually work and have me meditate as a monk.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yep.
Because
way back in the WoW Armory, they had you can look at your character and do all these different poses. Meditate was in there.
Yeah.
Why can't I do it?
Where is it? Like if you cast Pilgrimage, right? Like that should be like
it's the
a
same
monk
exact
toy
thing.
or an emote or something, because that would be really cool. And I like the monk class a lot, and I feel like it's sort of got the short end of the stick, because it's the only new class that they've introduced over the years that had to start at level 1.
I'm
And
so
a
glad
lot of
I
people-
did though.
Yeah,
gosh, it's fun to play.
Yeah, it's a great class, and I think a lot of people probably never checked it out because it's like, I don't want to start all the way over at level 1 and do this entire thing again, even with enlightenment and all that stuff. Monk is a pretty easy class to level, but you don't have a 55 or 98 level head start either.
Exactly.
So, give them some custom emotes or something, man.
Yeah.
It's the least you can do if we got to
It's
start
rough.
at level 1.
1 to 100 is rough. Give us some emotes. Perfect.
We could pass the time with some slash verbs.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, guys, thank you very much for joining me this week. It has been an absolute treat speaking to both of you. I can't thank you both enough for joining me.
Thank you for having
Sure,
me.
man. Always a pleasure, man. This is one of my, well, other than the Starting Zone, this is my favorite show to be on. So
Oh, thank you.
it's always an honor to be asked and to join you and to talk WoW stuff about wherever the evening leads us. So
That's one
thank
of the
you so
fun
much
things
for
about the
inviting me back.
show. Yeah. So, Anthony, until next time we have you on, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Perfect Nomad, where I do most of my social media stuff. I also have a podcast that I haven't done in like 2 months that I'm going to start up because school is going to be over soon.
Exactly.
The Freezing Nomad. Look forward to a new episode in the near future.
Very good. Glad to hear that. Jason,
Yes.
how about you? Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Twitter at Shieldwald, always talking whatever I'm up to in WoW, whatever's going on around the game. You can also find me streaming WoW stuff on twitch.tv/Shieldwald. Usually streaming WoW at least 5 nights a week and an additional afternoon, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, but check that out. Doing, raiding, Keystone Dungeons, leveling, just hanging out. And you can find the Starting Zone wherever fine podcasts can be found. If you search for the Starting Zone, Google, Apple, Spotify, you name it. Although if you get it from Stitcher and it doesn't update the feed, I can't help you. So maybe I would recommend like iTunes or Spotify or Google. And you can find the show on Twitter at the Starting Zone. We do the show live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can find that on twitch.tv/Spazbot Studios. And yeah, we have some cool stuff coming up. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a very, very busy time.
Yep.
Because we have some big updates coming in a week or so. And and of course, it's the end of the year, it's the holidays, it's all that stuff, which is going to make it tricky, but we'll figure it out. So check the show out over there.
All right. If you're interested in following me, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Ben the Mage. I do a show with Aludra called Battle Pets, where we talk about battle pets in the World of Warcraft. John, who has been missing today because of some illness, you can always find him on Twitter. He is at John_Jagger, I believe. I don't know. I tweet him all the time. I would assume that that's what it is. Also, he does a show called Core, where he talks about Heroes of the Storm. And of course, you don't want to forget There Will Be Dungeons, which is every Saturday. Hopefully, he's going to be well enough to do that tomorrow, much less playing our game tomorrow night. So don't talk a lot, John. Feel better.
Get well soon, John.
Get well soon, John.
Send healing vibes through the internet to
Exactly.
you.
I mean, I'm a healer. I should just be able to take care of it, but
yeah, just throw some mist at him or whatever.
Yeah, I'll walk over and spit on him.
Mist him down. Yeah, do like
Yeah,
a squirt bottle and just
What is this? Ben, what are you doing? That's my healing mist. Yeah. This show, though, Azeroth Roundtable, you can find us on Twitter. We are at AzerothRT. Every episode is found on AzerothRoundtable.com, as well as on iTunes and some other places you can find podcasts. So, check it out. If you have any questions, comments, want to say how much better or worse this episode was because John wasn't here, you can email those to AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com. And I got to say, every single person who has supported the show has been a huge help and a huge blessing. That includes some of our patrons, which our newest patron, if I'm reading this correctly, Jesse O, as well as Jack B. Thank you both very much for becoming new patrons. We always appreciate all the support that you give, as well as to the Murloc Club, which is Aaron Somdi, Annalisa A, Bershkaber. This is a lot easier or a lot harder than I give John credit for. Chris B, Chris R, Gary W, Haster, Jesse O, Jim G, Kieran, Rich, Sash, and Stephen M. To that, I just got to say, which, hey, now you actually get to see me because John didn't do a little switch thing. But anyways, thank you everybody for joining us on this episode of Azeroth Roundtable. It has been an absolute treat. Again, Anthony, Jason, thank you. And everybody else out there, happy December and be good to each other. Oh man, guys, that's a podcast.
Woo! We did it. We made one of those things again.
I didn't think I'd be able to do everything, but I did.
You did great, Ben. Good job, man.
Oh, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
You guys are
That was
so
fun.
awesome. Like, seriously.
It's always
so
a good
awesome.
time, man.
Right back at you, my man. It's
Aw.
it's a lot of fun. I really missed like just doing this. So
Mhm.
thank you again for reaching out to me and
Of
asking me to be
course.
on the Azeroth Roundtable. Thank you.
I didn't think that you would mind, even though you hadn't published anything recently. Just like I said, I like talking to you, so I kind of wanted to have you on.
I've been itching, man. It's just school and work just getting in the way, you
Mhm.
know. I got to
I
put food on the table.
I completely
Yeah.
understand. Work has been like crazy busy for me lately too, so I'm right there with you. I totally get it.
Are we still streaming?
Yep, still streaming right now.
Okay. Okay. I
So
got something to tell you guys
don't,
after.
Oh,
don't
okay.
start disrobing or anything, because
No, not yet.
Twitch doesn't like that kind of thing.
Maybe I can just remove the bow on Pepe.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
Ooh.
I think that's probably pretty safe. I don't think.
I gotta say, Holiday Pepe looking pretty good.
My girlfriend.
Yeah,
actually
it's very
saying,
festive.
Dude,
Yeah.
I could shoot more, but my house is dirty.
It's fine. I love the fact that you have the tree up and that you can see Gen over around the couch. Very cute.
We got Gen and
Oh yeah,
Figaro.
there he
Here
is.
we got Pumpkin, and Sylvanas is actually on the chair way over there.
I'm actually surprised none of the cats came to bother me this time. Normally they stop by at least once, just to say hi, but no, they all left me alone.
Normally get
They're not interested, so don't.
because John isn't here.
Probably.
Maybe it's the sound of John's voice that draws.
They're
them.
just like, is he talking again?
Although I don't know how they would hear through your headphones, but
Hey, cats have great hearing. You never know.
it doesn't really fit with my story, so we'll just ignore that.
That works. But anyways, everybody in the chat, thank you very much for joining us. You guys were awesome as
Thanks,
always.
chat. As always, yeah.
But
Thanks,
we are
guys.
going to say adieu and all that stuff. So bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.